What is up, all you individuals out there? It's me, full-time anime man, and I am here with the next part of What If Deku Was an Ice Wolf? Forgot which part it was, but let's go ahead and get into this. Hope you all enjoy. Where we last left off, Izuku and Shoto were finally properly reunited after many years of separation. After all was said and done, Endeavor was convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison for child endangerment, child neglect, child abuse, along with a number of other things. Rei Todoroki was able to go home, and on the same night that the family was celebrating for Izuku getting into UA, Toya, the elder brother, finally returned and was freed from the same brain parasite that once inhabited Izuku's mind. After the boys successfully removed the parasite from their brother's head, Izuku suggested that Toya should rest for a while he lets the kiss of Sira help recover some of his scars. Anyway, the boys would make it to school the next day and they would be greeted by their classmates. As they walked to their class, they would all ask Izuku about his life at home while still living with Endeavor, and even would tell him where he's been for a majority of his life. And Izuku would answer them, and they would not like what they would hear. Anyway, they get to class, and they take their seats, and of course, Izuku and Shoto are going to sit next to each other. And they wait for Aizawa to show up. And a few minutes later, he does show up, but mostly covered in bandages. Some would ask him if he was okay and if he was feeling alright enough to even teach today. But Aizawa would tell them that his health is irrelevant right now. The most important thing is that they need to prepare for the sports festival. Everyone would be excited except for Bakugo, who would keep his excitement to himself. Because they were all very excited to show off their powers and show hero corporations what they're all about. Even Izuku and Shoto were excited. Anyway, after all was said and done, it was actually a really nice day for Izuku because he actually had a normal day at school like a normal person. And by the way, and by the end of the school, everyone was talking about what moves they're going to do to hopefully catch the attention of some pro heroes at the sports festival. While talking, Izuku couldn't help but notice that Bakugo was sitting by himself in the corner. So he decided to get up and firmly introduce himself, but Bakugo does not look in his direction when he said hi. He then extends his hand out and says, "My name is Izuku Todoroki. Please don't blow my back up again." He nervously laughs, and Bakugo then gives him a death glare, and a light of red aura started emitting around the outlines of Bakugo's body. He then stood up and said, "Stay out of my way, and I won't." He then walks away and he opens the door only to see everyone in UA standing outside of their class. "Who the hell are you extras?" "Bakugo, that's not a nice name to call them," said Ida. "But, just to answer your question, there are other students of this facility, and if I may be so kind as to ask, what are you all doing here?" Shinso steps forward and said, "We just wanted to scout out the competition. We also heard that Class 1A had a new student, and that he was with the League of Villains, the same ones that attacked the USJ, with all of you, with all of you in it." He then looks around the classroom and he looks at Izuku, but Shoto steps right in front of him, blocking him from his sight. He then grunts and scowls at Shinso. I take it that's him. To be honest, I really don't know what he's doing here, because I was always told that once a villain, always a villain. And if I were any of you, I wouldn't turn my back on him. Shoto then clenches his fist and was about to say something, but Izuku stopped him, grabbing him by the wrist and saying, "No, it's not worth it." He then gives him an assuring smile and says, "It's okay, Shoto." Soon, the boys are walking home, and and Shoto looks at Izuku and says, "Hey, Izuku, are you sure you're alright?" Izuku says, "Yeah, Shoto, I'm fine. It's alright. It's not like we had to fight anyone." Even though it was just a few minutes ago, Shinso's words still echo in the back of Shoto's mind. Once a villain, always a villain. It then ended with Shoto saying, "Yeah, you're right." Soon, the boys make it back home, and Fuyumi asks Izuku how was his first day of school. To be surprised, it actually really was his very first day at school. And Izuku would say that it was great, and that he was almost friends with everyone in his class, minus Bakugo. That's great to hear. Now, you boys be sure to shower up and do your homework. Dinner will be ready soon. The twin brothers would thank their sister, and they would pass the living room to get to their bedroom. But Izuku was stopped by his mother, Rei, who was reading a book. "Oh, hey, Izuku, can I talk to you for a moment?" "Yeah, of course, Mom." Hey, Shota, I'll be with you in just a moment." "Okay, see ya." Izuku sits down next to his mother on the couch and he says, "What do you want to talk about?" "Well, son, it's about what you told me when we were in the hotel. You told me that you consider this wolf quirk of yours a curse." "Yeah, I remember that, Mom. But you told me that everyone isn't meant to be the same, otherwise, there's no value to us." Ray smiles and says, "That's right. And you do know that this wolf side is not a curse or weakness, but instead, it is your very greatest strength. It's a symbol of who you are. Do you know what I mean?" Izuku smiles and says, "Yeah, Mom, I know that. Thanks for sharing that advice with me, by the way." And Ray smiles and says, "You're welcome. In fact, I have something that's another symbol of you." She then reaches next to the couch and she pulls up a box and says, "I requested this for you because it's something that's a very big part of you. It was your greatest weakness when you were small, but ever since you grew stronger and accepted who you truly are, you turned it into your greatest strength. Here." Izuku takes the box and he opens it and it reveals his chains. Izuku gasps and looks at Rei and says, "Thanks, Mom. I, I really do appreciate this." "My pleasure, sweetie. Now, go on." Izuku gets up and he hugs his mom and he runs off to his room with his chains. He then shows Shoto his chains and how he is able to send ice and fire through them, and he would be really impressed by how he's able to do that, and asked him if he would actually teach him how to do that with his chains one day when he gets his own. After their homework was done, Izuku went to Toya's room to see how his healing was going. The healing process was making decent process. It was slow, but he still needed more time to rest and more kisses from Sira before he is considered rejuvenated. A few hours would pass, and Izuku sat in his bed thinking about All Might and how he can't wait to gain One for All and to bring an end to All for One's reign of terror. He then calls All Might and informs him that he is ready, and All Might told him to meet him at Dagobah Beach and to bring Shoto with him. And so they go, but not before letting their mother know that they're going to take a quick walk. Ray would inform them to be back before the streetlights came on, and they would promise that they'll be back sooner. Soon, the boys reach the beach, and they were greeted by All Might. "Hello, Todoroki brothers." "Hey, All Might," said the boys. After they greeted each other, All Might laid out all the responsibilities of wielding One for All, and asked him if he's really sure that this is what he wants. Both him and Shoto nodded at All Might in agreement, and All Might said, "Very well then." All Might then kneeled down and he plucked a blonde piece of hair from his head and said, "Now, some people would consider this disgusting, but I kid you not, it's literally the only way to transfer my quirk to you. Eat this." "Yeah, that does sound disgusting," said Izuku. "But if it is the way, I will do it." Izuku then takes the hair and eats it, and Todoroki gags from looking at that. Blech. Sorry. "Okay, so tomorrow morning we will start your training. You most definitely are going to feel something strange when you wake up." Both of the boys says, "Yes, sir." Then they leave. A few hours would pass, and Izuku would wake up in the middle of the night with a strange feeling all over his body. He then feels hot and cold at the same time, and next to him was Shoto, who was grunting loudly in his bed as if he was feeling immense pain like Izuku was. "Shoto, Shoto, wake up." He wakes up. "Izuku, what's going on?" "I think One for All is adjusting to our bodies. Quickly, we need to get outside, just in case something happens." They both then get up and have a great struggle even trying to stand and leave the room. At one point, their struggle caused a commotion that woke up Natsuo, who was concerned for his little brothers. "Izuku, Shoto, what's wrong?" Izuku struggles to say, We need to get outside." "What? Why?" asked Natsuo. "Just help us, Natsuo." "Oh, okay, come on." Natsuo then helps them up and he takes them outside. "Okay, now what?" Izuku then said, "Stand back." He then backs up, and Izuku and Shoto randomly start emitting fire and ice off of their bodies. They then turn into their wolf forms as their elements continue to go haywire. Izuku's eyes started to glow, and it started to lightly snow. And that snow suddenly took the form of Izuku's wolf form, but then it was blown away by the wind. Natsuo watched in confusion about what is going and wondering what is going on with both of them. Suddenly, they both start emitting a light, but this light was different. This time, it was a multicolored light of neon lights. It even showed off strange stripes all over their bodies and what appeared to be the letter X just in between their eyes. And also, he saw electricity visibly surfing through both of their bodies. Izuku grunts while saying, Shoto, I think One for All is amplifying our power. But we need to make sure that Tethered is active so that it could grow stronger too." The Wolf brothers then reach towards each other and they touch paw to paw. and they glow their signature white light, but it was brighter, and then it got even more brighter and brighter and brighter, so bright that that brightness could actually be seen from space. Let's hope Natsuo wasn't looking at that. When the light died down, both of the boys were laying on the ground, exhausted, still in their wolf forms. Natsuo runs towards them. Guys, hey, are you two okay? They slowly get up and Izuku says, yeah. Whew, yeah, we're fine. Shota then said, yeah, in fact, I feel great. As if, it's as if my entire body had gotten stronger. Natsuo takes a sigh of relief and says, good, I was really worried there. But, guys, what was that? The boys then climbed back into their clothes and changed back into their human forms. Izuku then said, here, I'll tell him, but first, can we just get back inside the house? Natsuo would walk in between the boys and placing his hands on both of their shoulders. But little did Izuku, Shoto, or Natsuo notice that a thread of golden light appeared from Izuku's wrist and connected to Shoto's wrist, while a light blue thread appeared from Izuku's wrist and connected to Natsuo's wrist as well. But then it disappeared before any of them could notice it. Ooh, what in the heck was that? It's the next day, and after school at Dagobah Beach, Izuku and Shoto were tasked to clean the beach, and All Might asked them how long does it think it will take them to clean the beach. And Izuku steps forward and says, 1 week. Really? Said Shoto. Really? Said All Might. All Might rubs the back of his head and looks to the pile of trash. I don't know. This looks like it should at least take a few months to clean. Are you sure you can do it? Yeah, just watch me. He gets started cleaning, and then, of course, so does Shoto. The next day comes, and as the boys were leaving the school premises, about 6 other UA upperclassmen stood in front of them, each of them having an angered expression on their faces. Izuku says, is there something we can do to help you gentlemen? One of them stood forward and said, we heard that you were the one who was with the League of Villains. I really don't get why the school even allowed you into this facility. I'm just gonna be honest, straight up, I don't like you. And I think it'd be best for you if you just left this school before someone makes you. Izuku looks at Shoto. Shoto looks at Izuku. They then nod at each other, and Izuku says, I don't think so. Fine then. The 6 students then charged at the twin brothers, but as they get closer, Izuku and Shoto smirked and extended their right hands out, sending snow their way as the screen flashes white. And then it clears up, revealing the boys walking away. Hey, says Shoto, do you really think that that was okay to do? Yeah, we do have our hero licenses, which gives us consent to use our quirks in public. And it was in a line of self-defense. Not to mention, we did call them an ambulance just to be safe. Yeah, they'll be fine. The screen then zooms out and reveals all 6 of the boys stuck in a thin layer of ice, but not covering their faces. And I'm pretty sure most of them are scarred. Anyway, the boys get to the beach and they clean it. And the next day comes during school. Izuku was called down to Principal Nezu's office. I wonder what he wants to talk about, asked Shoto. I might have an idea, said Izuku. Izuku gets to his office and he sees that he's talking to one of the boys that were confronting Izuku and his brother yesterday, and a police officer. May I ask what's going on here? Asks Izuku. Principal Nezu says, please, Izuku, have a seat. Izuku sits down and says, well, actually, Nezu says, now, Izuku, do you remember who this boy is? Izuku, of course, looks at him and he says, yes, I do. Um, he and his friends tried to threaten and harass me and my brother because he did not like me and I said no to his proposal for leaving UA. The boy then said, that is a lie. Me and my friends were simply just walking, and him and his brother attacked us out of nowhere for no reason. Izuku does not say anything, for he does not want to sound desperate for Principal Nezu to believe him, unlike the other student over there. Nezu thinks for a second and he says, now, Clarence, that's his name by the way, you told me that it was Izuku and only Izuku that attacked you and your friends, but now you're saying that his brother was there with him? Clarence stutters, having a hard time finding the right words, but then he just decides to stay silent. I see. Well, Izuku, you can go back to class now. Everything, you're not in trouble. I'm just going to have a talk with Clarence here. Thank you, Principal Nezu. Izuku gets up and he was about to leave, but before he could even open the door, the police officer says, I just want you to know that if you ever step one toe out of line, someone will take you in and your probation will be extended. Do you understand, boy? Izuku's heart skipped a beat. The way that he spoke to him just made his skin crawl and angered him at the same time. He then says, yes, all for one. I mean, yes, sir. He then leaves and slams the door. He gets back to class and Shoto asks, what did Principal Nezu want to talk about? Izuku? For a brief second, Izuku shows us a facial sign of despair and just puts on a normal one. It's nothing. It was just about yesterday's incident with those boys, and I'm good. I'm in the clear. Shoto can tell that something happened, but he didn't want to pry about it and leaves his brother be. A few minutes during class, everyone was taking notes, and Izuku is writing, and Shoto can see the frustration in each stroke of his pencil, and at one point, he squeezed his pencil so hard that he snapped it in half. He then sighed out of frustration, silently, and used the broken half of his pencil. After school and to the beach, the boys continued to clean the beach, but while cleaning, Izuku was angrily throwing things in a pile. Shoto notices this. Izuku? And at one point, an office drawer was so deep in the sand that Izuku angrily tried to pull it out, but with each attempt, he would get more and more angry. Come on, you stupid drawer! Ugh! Within one fell swoop, the bigger than what it looked like drawer then popped out from the ground and headed towards the sky, past the clouds. Izuku falls to the ground, and out of anger, with, it just like flowing throughout all of his body, he then lets it out. He then starts punching the sandy ground with one fist fire and the other fist ice. He repeatedly punches the ground so fast and so hard that he leaves after images of his fist in the air where he punches. Shoto is really getting more and more concerned about Izuku and tries to calm him down. Izuku! He doesn't say anything. He calls his name over and over again, but he doesn't listen. Tears start to run down Shoto's face, and he runs towards his brother and hugs him and pulls him down to the ground to calm him down. Izuku, please just calm down! Izuku stops and takes a deep breath, and after a few seconds, he breaks down into tears. And Shoto tightly embraced him while, while rubbing his shoulders. It's okay. While telling him it's okay. After a few minutes, the waterworks had stopped. Shoto finally decided to ask again Izuku what happened in the principal's office. Izuku takes a deep breath and told him what happened, and it wasn't even the bold claims or the fact that this student tried to get him in trouble. It was the police officer, because he reminded him so much of All for One and how he punished him and inflicted so much pain onto him. I remember sitting in my prison room every night. I'd curl up in my bed and I'd always say the same thing over and over again. I want to go home. 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 I just want to go home. I want to go home. Shoto hugs him to calm him down again. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. He doesn't have you anymore. He doesn't have you anymore. You are home. And I swear to you, with every fiber in my being, I will protect you forever, Izuku. No one's ever going to hurt you again. Izuku cries for a while and then he thanks Shoto for comforting him. Shoto thinks that it's probably best if they take today off from cleaning the beach because Izuku's been through enough. And so they do. They head home, but as they enter, they hear crying in the living room. They turn to the corner to see Natsuo laying his head in the lap of their mother, Rei. Izuku asks Natsuo, what's wrong? But he is too deep in tears to say anything. But Rei did say something. I'm not sure, boys. He just started crying out of nowhere and he won't tell me what's wrong. Oh, poor Natsuo. Izuku walks up to him and he squats down while petting his back and saying, you know, if you ever have anything or any problems you want to talk about, I'm always here if you want to talk, okay, bro? Natsuo tightly clenches the blanket on his mother's lap. Okay, well, we'll leave you be. Just let us know if you need anything. Izuku was about to turn around and get up. Well, the other way around. When all of a sudden, Izuku's hand was suddenly grabbed by Natsuo. He looked back with a jolt and looked into his mid-elder brother's eyes. His pupils were small and shaking violently, and dark shadows were just underneath his eyelids. He looked like he was on the brink of losing his mind. He then spoke 4 words that will forever echo in the back of Izuku's mind. I want to go home. Izuku starts freaking out, trying to get out of his brother's grip, but with every attempt that he tries, it just gets tighter and tighter, and at one point, a vein appeared on Natsuo's hand. Natsuo, you're hurting me. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. Natsuo, please stop. I want to go home. I want to go home. Shoto runs over to assist in trying to get Izuku out of his grip, and then Rei said, Natsuo, let go of your brother. Fuyumi walks in. Hey, what's going on here? Izuku starts to cry and so does Natsuo. She then runs over and tries to help, but Natsuo still would not let go of Izuku. Natsuo, what's gotten into you, said Fuyumi. Izuku was losing all feeling in his right hand, but then another pair of hands came in to assist them. It was Toya. He was all healed, and all the family worked together to set Izuku free from Natsuo's grip. They managed to get Izuku out, and Izuku falls to the ground in a lot of pain. He then gets up and runs off. Shoto yelled for him to wait, but Izuku was already gone. But they still had Natsuo to worry about. He was still acting violent, resisting, and wouldn't calm down. So Todoroki had to make sure that he could restrain him and bounded him, his arms and legs, down to the ground. And they called an ambulance to have him thoroughly examined, but of course, the ambulance had trouble getting him onto the gurney, having to tie him down and take him to the hospital where he could be thoroughly examined. I might have already said that, but let's move on. At at the house, everyone was looking for Izuku, but they couldn't find him. After searching for an hour, obviously they started worrying if he might have gotten hurt or if he ran away. Shoto, being the most concerned, slid his back down against a wall and just thinking, where could he possibly be? But as he was thinking, he hears the whimpers of a dog like whimper, coming from the wall behind him. He then gets a faint scent of Izuku behind the wall. Izuku, are you in there? Yeah, I'm in here. What? How did you get in there? I crawled in through the vents and I found this space. I think I got in through the air vent that's, in the same room as you. Shoto looks around. He sees an unopened vent and he crawls inside using his wolf form. And soon he finds Izuku in a small enclosed space with only little light from the top room through the cracks of the sunlight coming in. Hey, Izuku, are you alright? He looks closer and sees that Izuku is licking his hand injury. Oh no, Izuku, you're hurt. No, it's fine, it's just a bruise. Izuku then lays down flat on his belly and lightly whimpers like a dog. Shoto runs over and comforts him. Izuku, it's okay. Izuku tried to speak, but his voice always cracks and whimpers. No, it's not okay, Shoto. Natsuo, Natsuo looked like he was trying to hurt me, like he hated me. And what he said, I can't get it out of my mind. I want to go home. Why did he say that? Why did he want to hurt me? Shoto says, I don't know. I don't know. Clearly there's something bothering him, but we'll figure it out. We just need to think. They think for a second and Izuku says, I'm sorry. I can't think straight. His words are still echoing in my mind. Why did he say I want to go home? Shoto then gets an idea, and he says to Izuku, it might be because you said it. Izuku says, yeah, I recall saying it when we were at the beach today, and I was all emotional and... Oh. Izuku may have gotten the idea. Wait, are you thinking what I'm thinking that you were thinking, but now that I'm thinking? Yeah, I do. I think it might have something to do with One for All. Maybe it evolved our quirk as much more as made them stronger. Well, that could possibly make sense. How far do you think it evolved them? I don't know. But what I do know is that all is that our fire and ice is stronger, but I don't know how strong the tethered quirk has gotten, but I fear that Natsuo is somehow affected by it. Izuku clearly blames himself for his brother's condition, but Shoto comforts him, saying that it's not his fault. But Izuku retaliates, saying, I know it's not my fault, but it still happened. Izuku sniffs a few times. But then, Shoto comforts him. I know. Let's get into a more open space where we could breathe properly, okay? Okay. So together they leave the air vents, and Izuku crawls out with his fur being dirty, covered in dust and cobwebs, and so is Shoto. So how do you think it got? So how strong do you think it could be? We could experiment with it. As they were talking, Fuyumi turned the corner and saw the boys in their wolf forms. Oh my god, boys, you're okay. Yes, sis, we're fine, said Izuku. She couldn't help but notice the cobwebs and dust on their fur and said, Ew, boys, your fur is dirty. Come on. She then grabs them by the back of their necks, trust me, she was not being mean about it, and drags them to the bath. Come on, you boys need a bath. Wait, Fuyumi, please, no, not a bath. Because all dog-like creatures hate baths, right? And then Shoto said, "Yes, Fuyumi, please, not a bath, not right now. No questions about it. Come on." We then transition to the boys in a bath covered in bubbles, with Fuyumi scrubbing Izuku's fur. And they went on to tell her about what happened and how their quirks evolved. So let me get this straight. You two voluntarily took All Might's quirk and it advanced your other quirks, and you think that your tethered quirk has something to do with Natsuo's outbursts. Yes. And by the way, you knowing this could potentially put you in danger, so it'd be best if you be careful who you trust. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. The boys would also tell her that hy- the boys then tell her about their hypothesis and how it's and how and excuse me. Fuyumi would actually think that that would actually make a lot of sense, and how do you think it happened? As Fuyumi, the boys think really, really, really hard about it, and Izuku says it was that night when he touched us. As we were walking back into the house, I couldn't help but notice a faint glance of a yellow light and a blue light just over our shoulder. Shoto, we need to use Tethered Quirk to see how it reacts. Okay. They try to get out the tub, but Fuyumi stops them. No, 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 no. Hold on, I'm almost done. Just wait. Izuku slowly starts growling, but of course he doesn't expose his teeth to his sister. But then Fuyumi then flicks Izuku on his nose. Up, up, up. Don't you growl at me. Izuku's ears then droop down to the side, feeling a bit embarrassed. But anyway, after the boys were cleaned up, they all three of them were walking to Izuku and Shoto's room when Toya came around the corner. Hey, bros, how you doing? Could have done something better than that. Natsuo said. Wait, not Natsuo. Wait, Toya, said Izuku. You look good. Yeah, it's all thanks to you. Yo, if it wasn't for you, Izuku, I would have lost my mind a long time ago. So thanks for that. Hey, what are brothers for? Yeah, I know. But it's just... Seriously, I can't thank you enough. I owe you and Shoto a lot. But hey, if you guys don't mind me asking, what was going on with Natsuo? The boys then take their siblings to their room and they tell the and the boys tell them about the tethered quirk. And Natsuo, why do I keep saying his name? And Toya says, that's a lot to take in. And so you guys plan on using this tethered quirk to see what reactions you get, especially after your quirks evolved? Yeah, we're hoping that it works out well. Okay, well, just for safety, I'm gonna stay here to assure that, everything's okay. I'll stay too, said Fuyumi. Okay, here we go. The boys then sit back to back against each other and in a meditative position They both take in a deep breath at the same time as they let it out, and then in and then out again. And as they take their last breath in, suddenly they give out that white aurora glow, and as their hair starts waving in the air with them. No, it's not with them. Toya says, this must be the tethered quirk. Very cool. They continue to watch, and Fuyumi and Toya see a thread of light appear from Izuku's wrist. One golden that is connected to Shoto, and the other one is a light blue that leads outside. She was about to say something, but Shoto and Izuku spoke at the same time. Wait, I see something. It's Natsuo. He's strapped down into a bed at the hospital. The doctors are trying to draw blood from him, but he won't sit still. He's still panicking. While watching, the boys see the electric vital sign monitor and saw that his heart rate, his blood pressure, and that his body temperature and his oxygen saturation was dangerously high. If they didn't find out the problem soon, their brother could potentially suffer a major crash and he could die from a heart failure or stroke. This is bad. Natsuo is not doing well. If he doesn't calm down soon, he could die from stress. Fuyumi says, but wait, Izuku, there's something coming out of your arm. Izuku opens his eyes and he sees the two threads, the golden one connected to Shoto and the light blue one that is leading outside. Shoto, look. Shoto looks, but then the threads disappear. What? Where did it go? Where did what go? I don't see anything. Wait a minute. Shoto, close your eyes again. Okay. He closes his eyes and concentrates again, and the threads come back. Izuku tells Shoto that the golden thread is connected to him, and I think we should follow the other one to see where it leads. Well, let's get going, said Toya. So they all follow the thread, and it goes outside and onto a road that looks like it goes infinitely it infinitely goes outside. I forgot the word for a second. Like down the street. It goes infinitely down the street, excuse me. And Izuku suggested, that Shoto follows them, but like tries not to lose focus, otherwise the threads might disappear. And so Toya volunteers to let Shoto ride on his back. They walk for a while, and they get to the hospital, because that's where the thread leads into. Fuyumi says, guys, yeah, this hospital is where Natsuo is. As they make it through the hospital, people saw the light of thread that was on the ground, and at one point someone tried to touch it, only for it to phase through their hand like a phantom. But when Izuku walks past it, it retreats into his arm. Soon, they make it to the patient's room area, and they follow the thread into a certain room. They look inside the room and saw that it was Natsuo. The thread was still connected to his wrist. They managed to put him to sleep, but his vitals were still out of whack. They get inside the room, and Shoto is told to open his eyes, and the threads fade away. They all look at Natsuo, feeling bad for him. Fuyumi says, Izuku, is there any way to detach the thread from him? I think so. He has it wrapped around his wrist. Shoto, close your eyes one more time. The threads then come back, and Izuku says, so maybe if I just... He then unties the knot, and then Natsuo's vitals start dropping to a normal level. It worked, said Fuyumi. He's waking up. His eyes slowly start to open, and then his vision clears, and the first one that he sees is Izuku. Is Izuku? Hey, Natsuo. How are you feeling? He looks at the rest of his brothers and sister, and then back to Izuku, and he starts tearing up, and he like jumps at Izuku to put him in a tight hug, but like not too tight to scare him this time, while trying to speak, but his voice is quivering. You're okay. You're okay. I'm, I'm so I'm so sorry you went through that. I wish I knew where you were. You, you were in so much trouble that you needed saving, but nobody came. I'm so sorry you went through that, brother. Everyone is confused as to what he is talking about. They comfort him for giving him a. Well, they all form a big sibling hug. After a few minutes, Natsuo would stop crying and everyone would sit down and ask him what happened. Natsuo says, well, it all started in the afternoon, somewhat around 2, maybe 3. I was I was sitting in my room doing my homework when all of a sudden my pencil was engulfed in flames. Now, at first, I freaked out about it, but then I just assumed that maybe Dad's quirk was finally kicking in. I was excited, so I practiced and practiced until I was able to shoot a fireball. I was going to go and tell Mom about it when all of a sudden I started having flashbacks that weren't mine, but Izuku's. I remember seeing the woods and uh, the pack that took care of you, and that night when they were attacked, and then the League of Villains found you, and that day that Dad got injured. I saw it all. When they tortured you, it was horrible what they did to you, Izuku. I'm so sorry you went through that, and you had to go through it all alone. That nobody should ever have to go through what you went through. Foyumi asks, what did they do to him? They beat him, they starved him. He was on the brink of losing his mind, but he didn't. Good job on that, by the way, Zuku. Thanks. It was my old pack that kept me going. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that. No, it was something that needed to be seen. It just goes to show that the people in this world can be cruel beyond being told. It just. We need to help form a better society for the people of not just Japan, but to the rest of the world. But more importantly, we need to do it for Izuku. He smiles. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll find a way. And so, for the rest of the evening, they talked. And Izuku got a few feelings off of his chest. Obviously, tears were shedded, and they comforted him and all that. But after they were done, Natsuo was free to go home. And then we skip a few days later, and Izuku and Shoto successfully cleaned the beach on time. All Might was baffled that the boys managed to keep their promise in just a week. All Might says, I'm surprised, young Todorokis. I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a second. The boys would be proud of their work, and they would look beyond the beach, and not a single strain of trash is left behind. We then skipped to the next day, and it was time for the sports festivals to begin. The stadium was filled. President Mike told everyone to hang on to their seats, for the sports festival was about to get started. As the doors open, Class 1A walks out, and right behind them was the other classmen of 1B and possibly 1C, if there is such a thing. As midnight, the rated M for mature hero stood on the podium. She said, "I hope you folks are ready for things to get started, because the sports festival has officially begun!" And that is where I'm going to end it for this episode. Things are looking pretty bright for Izuku for now. So, how will he do in the sports festival? Tune in next time on What If Deku Was an Ice Wolf, part... I already forgot what part I'm doing. just tune in on the next part, okay? Anyway, I hope you all have a nice day, and if you made it to the end of this video, consider yourselves #blessed, and I hope you all have a nice day. Goodbye. And that's going to do it for this episode of What If Deku Was an Ice Wolf. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Give it a like, subscribe, comment, and stay positive. Now, if you all made it to the end of this video, consider yourselves #blessed, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.